This is Heliox, where evidence meets empathy. Independent, moderated, timely, deep, gentle, clinical, global, and community conversations about things that matter. Breathe easy. We go deep and lightly surface the big ideas.
Tap, tap, tap. That relentless noise from your neighbor, maybe. Or the hum of a distant washing machine that seems to just drill into your brain, even when nobody else seems to notice it.
Yeah.
If this sounds familiar, you might be one of the, millions who find themselves reacting really intensely to sounds others just easily tune out. Today, we're taking a deep dive into something often dismissed, I think, but increasingly recognized as a pretty significant factor in our well-being. Noise sensitivity.
Yeah, absolutely. And our mission for this deep dive is really to unpack what noise sensitivity truly is, how we even try to measure it, its profound impacts on our mental and physical health, and also its surprising biological roots, and maybe touch on a new, more comprehensive way scientists are starting to think about it.
Right. And we're drawing from two really great sources today. A compelling scientific research paper looking at noise and health, and quite an insightful article from BBC Future that explores how noise sensitivity really disrupts the mind, the brain, and the body.
Both really fascinating reads.
Definitely. So, okay, let's start by maybe challenging some common assumptions. For a long time, noise sensitivity might have just been brushed off, as a personality quirk.
Right. They're just too sensitive.
Exactly. Or irritable. But as we'll see, science is telling a very different story now. One writer described how even like soft thudding across ceilings or the high-pitched hum of a vacuum or even a neighbor's dog yapping could just completely break her concentration and peace of mind, even though the noise was like well below decibels that would irritate anyone else.
Yeah.
Does that resonate with you or maybe with your own experience?
It absolutely does. And formally, noise sensitivity is defined as feeling more upset and disturbed by noise than the average person.
Okay.
And the research suggests it's quite a range, actually, anywhere from maybe 10% up to even 40% of the general population experiences this to some degree.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is. And what's crucial here, I think, is that it's increasingly understood not as some sort of personality flaw, but as having real biological roots. For years, health professionals might have kind of dismissed this, like a waste paper basket sort of issue maybe. But now it's recognized as really significantly impacting people's lives on a very real experiential level.
Okay, so just to be really clear then, we're not talking about misophonia here. That specific, really intense reaction to certain sounds, like chewing or tapping.
Exactly, the trigger sounds.
Often triggering disgust or even rage.
Nope, not that.
And it's also different from hyperacusis, where people actually perceive sounds as much louder than they are, leading to pain or, extreme discomfort.
That's right. Those are distinct conditions.
So if it's neither of those, how would you precisely define noise sensitivity then? What is it?
That's a great question and an important distinction. Noise sensitivity, by contrast, is more of a general reactiveness to all sounds. It doesn't necessarily depend on how loud they're perceived or even how loud they actually are. People with it just find sound disruptive, period. It makes them feel annoyed, angry, maybe fearful, or anxious. It's often described kind of vividly, I think, as feeling like you have a mosquito flying around you.
Yeah.
You just can't ignore it, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's objectively quiet.
Right, that makes sense. It's clear this isn't just about being a bit grumpy then, but what are the real-world implications, the actual health impacts for someone living with this?
Well, they can be significant. For individuals who actually develop a fear of noise, the condition can trigger a full-on fight-or-flight response.
Wow.
Yeah, leading to immediate physiological changes like increased heart rate, elevated blood pressure, that kind of thing.
Okay. And beyond that immediate sort of stress reaction, I imagine sleep quality must take a hit as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there was a 2021 study tracking about 500 adults in China, which confirmed this. It found that while the noise itself didn't directly, objectively ruin sleep quality across the board, the noise-sensitive individuals consistently rated their sleep as less restorative. They reported feeling moodier, having less energy during the day. So it points to this deeper underlying sensitivity impacting how they experience sleep.
That makes sense. So stepping back a bit, what are the longer-term health risks we should be aware of?
Well, the bigger picture here is that we already know chronic noise exposure is linked to long-term health issues like heart disease and diabetes.
Right.
And for noise-sensitive people, the mental health impacts can be particularly severe. Consider this. Another 2021 study, this one with nearly 2,400 men in Wales exposed to road traffic noise,
Okay.
found that those who were noise-sensitive were significantly more likely to experience long-term anxiety and depression.
Significantly more likely. Wow.
Yeah. And another one, a 2023 survey of over 1,200 adults living near French airports, revealed that individuals who were severely annoyed by the aircraft noise, especially those who were noise-sensitive, were much more likely to rate their general health as poor.
So it's a pretty substantial health burden, it sounds like.
It really is, yeah.
So, okay, that leads us right to the fundamental question. Why? Why do some people react this way? And the brain research you mentioned offers some really compelling clues, doesn't it, about the biological roots?
It really does. What's fascinating here is that brain studies show a distinct difference in how sounds get processed. So in people without noise sensitivity, the brain's activity level, heightens mainly with sounds that are actually threatening.
Right, makes sense, like an alarm.
Exactly. But in noise-sensitive individuals, their brains, quote, tend to go up the gears irrespective of the sound, whether it's a threatening sound or a non-threatening sound.
Huh. So it's like their internal alert system is just
Yeah.
always on high or easily triggered.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It seems overly responsive.
And this alertness, you mentioned it's linked to how the brain filters out unimportant sounds. Can you explain that a bit more simply?
Sure. So research suggests there's a specific cluster of cells within a brain region called the medial geniculate nucleus.
Okay, that's a mouthful.
It is, but think of it as like the brain's main sorting office for sound information.
Gotcha. Sorting office.
Right. And in noise-sensitive people, this sorting office seems to be less efficient at the filtering task. Essentially, while most people can kind of filter out background noise and, get on with life, those with noise sensitivity, they just don't do it as easily. Unimportant sounds keep demanding their brain's attention.
And this filtering issue even impacts sleep. You mentioned something about sleep spindles.
That's right, yeah. Sleep spindles are these specific patterns of electrical activity in the brain during sleep, and they seem important for helping us kind of habituate or get used to surrounding noise while we sleep.
Okay.
Well, noise-sensitive individuals tend to have fewer of them, and this might help explain why they remain so reactive to sounds that wouldn't bother others, even when they're trying to sleep.
Fascinating. So is this something you're just born with? Or can it, develop over time?
That's a key question. Looking at the wider context, the exact how brains end up this way is still a bit of a mystery. But there was a Finnish twin study suggesting noise sensitivity is often heritable.
Ah, so genetic.
Yeah, suggesting some people might be predisposed right from birth. However, it's also definitely possible to develop it over time, especially maybe if you're living in a chronically noisy environment.
Right, like a busy city street.
Exactly. And it's also known to be more prevalent in individuals with conditions like anxiety, schizophrenia, and autism spectrum disorder. And it can even arise after traumatic brain injuries. And for most people who have it, it tends to persist over their lifetime. It seems very difficult to just habituate or desensitize to sound on your own if you have this underlying sensitivity.
Okay, wow. So given all this complexity, the biology, the persistence, the potential links to other conditions, it makes you wonder, how on earth do we even measure something as nuanced as noise sensitivity?
Yeah, that's a huge challenge.
It sounds like it's not as straightforward as just, asking someone if they're bothered by noise.
Not at all. Historically, it's been assessed in a few different ways, and each method seems to capture maybe a different piece of the puzzle.
Okay, like what?
Well, there are self-report questionnaires. Probably the most known is the Weinstein Noise Sensitivity Scale, or WNS. It's got 21 questions, covers general attitudes to noise, emotional reactions, things like that.
Right.
Then there's a more comprehensive one called NOISE, the Noise Sensitivity Questionnaire. That's 35 items, and it gets more specific, looking at sensitivity in different areas like work, leisure, home, communication, and sleep.
So more detailed.
Exactly. And then for simpler field research, sometimes they just use single item ratings, like a 3-point scale, not average or highly noise sensitive, though that might underestimate it a bit.
Okay. Questionnaires, ratings. Anything else?
Yeah. There's also a direct psychoacoustical approach, measuring loudness discomfort levels, or LDLs.
LDLs.
Yeah. This basically measures the sound level, usually of pure tones, at which a person starts to report discomfort. It's often used more in clinical settings like audiology.
Okay, so several different approaches. What happens when you actually compare them? The research paper we're looking at did exactly that right. They compared the noise C, the 3-point rating, and the LDLs in a study.
They did with 30 adults, and the results were, well, pretty surprising, actually.
How so?
A really key insight emerged. These three established measures of noise sensitivity were not well correlated with each other.
Wait, they didn't correlate, but they're all supposed to measure the same thing, right?
Exactly. That's the surprising part. This isn't just some minor methodological point. It implies that our current tools might only be capturing parts of what noise sensitivity actually is.
Huh.
And if that's the case, we might be underestimating its real effects on things like annoyance and health outcomes. If our own measures can't even agree, it really challenges our basic understanding.
That's a big deal. And what happened when these participants were actually exposed to a noise? I think it was an airplane sound.
That's right. It was a recording of a 15-second airplane overflight at 80 dBLAE. That's basically a measure of the average sound energy level over that time.
Okay, so a standardized noise.
Yes. And they asked participants to rate its loudness and how annoying it was. And here's the kicker. Only one of the measures consistently predicted their experience.
Only one. Which one?
Only the overall LDL, the loudness discomfort level. That measure, which seems to capture sort of intolerance to sound level, significantly predicted how loud and how annoying people found the aeroplane sound.
Wow. And the questionnaires didn't.
The other two measures, the noise CU and the 3-point scale, they showed a general trend. More sensitive people rated it louder and more annoying, but it didn't reach statistical significance.
Interesting.
So it suggests that maybe the LDL approach is tapping into something about sound level intolerance that the questionnaires, even the detailed noise C, aren't fully capturing. It really highlights how multifaceted this whole thing is.
Yeah, it really does. If our current tools aren't giving us the full picture or even agreeing with each other, then how can we really understand this properly or help people effectively?
Exactly.
This really brings us to what might be the most groundbreaking idea from this deep dive. A completely new way scientists are suggesting we should think about noise sensitivity.
Right. Stepping back, the traditional view often defines noise sensitivity as like a single static psychological trait, like having a fixed sensitivity setting that's just part of your personality.
Yeah, like being introverted or extroverted.
Sort of, yeah. But given these measurement challenges we just discussed, the study proposes that this simple idea, this trait conceptualization, doesn't fully capture all the different aspects.
So what's the alternative?
Instead, they suggest we should think of noise sensitivity as a process, a really complex interplay of many different factors that all combine to determine if a particular sound is experienced as noise for you in any given moment.
Okay, a process, not just a trait. So instead of saying, I am noise sensitive, this model shifts us to understanding how a specific sound becomes noise for me right now.
Precisely. It's a fundamental reframe. It moves away from a fixed label towards understanding a dynamic experience.
That sounds much more nuanced. So what are these factors in this new system model? Can we break down how a sound might actually become noise for someone step by step, according to this model?
We can try. It's complex, but let's walk through it. It starts, obviously, with the sound source itself. Who or what is making the sound matters.
Okay.
Then you have the physical properties. Sound quantities like the level, the frequency, and sound qualities, like how it fluctuates or its structure. Is it steady? Is it sudden?
Right, the sound itself.
Exactly. These physical aspects are then processed by your auditory system, your ears, and the pathways into your brain, creating a sound percept. That's your perception of pitch, loudness, location, etc.
Okay, makes sense so far.
But then it goes deeper. That percept gets interpreted for meaning. Is it speech I need to understand? Is it music? Is it just random background noise?
Ah, the interpretation part.
Yes. And in parallel with that, the sound information engages the limbic system in the brain. That's the part involved in emotional experiences and physiological arousal.
The emotional brain.
Exactly. And how that reacts depends heavily on your current state. Are you feeling anxious already or calm? This interaction leads to arousal, your physiological responses like heart rate, and affect your emotional responses like feeling annoyed or relaxed.
Oh, okay. There's a lot going on already. What else?
There's more. Your level of wakefulness plays a role, obviously crucial if you're trying to sleep. Then there are your underlying, more stable psychological traits. This includes noise sensitivity, as we previously defined it, but also other personality aspects.
Okay.
Crucially, your attitude to the sound source makes a huge difference. Is the noise coming from a friend you like or a neighbor you dislike?
Yeah, that definitely matters.
Big time. And the current situation, are you at home trying to relax, at work trying to concentrate, or on holiday? And finally, what are you actually trying to do at that moment? Your current behavior or task, like trying to have a conversation, read, sleep, or work, heavily influences how disruptive that sound feels.
Okay, hold on. So source, quantities, qualities, auditory system, percept, meaning limbic system, state, arousal, effect, wakefulness, traits, attitude, situation, and behavior. That's a lot of interacting factors.
It is, and all of these factors interplay according to the model to lead to that crucial moment. The appraisal, the sound is noise, meaning it's judged negatively as distracting, annoying, uncomfortable, unwanted.
Right, that's the outcome of the process.
Exactly. And importantly, the model suggests that the behavioral reaction to this, like covering your ears, complaining, leaving the room, isn't the sensitivity itself. That's what they call noise reactivity.
Ah, okay. So the sensitivity is the complex internal process across all those factors, and the reactivity is the observable behavior that results from that process judging the sound as noise.
You've got it. It separates the internal experience from the external action.
That's a really helpful distinction. It means noise sensitivity isn't just a label for someone who complains about noise, but it's about this whole internal dynamic system processing the sound in relation to everything else going on.
Precisely. It avoids applying a subjective judgment to an environmental stimulus as if it were some objective assessment. It's always contextual.
This model feels much more complete, much more realistic.
It does offer a powerful new framework. Of course, it's important to note the study itself had limitations. They only used aeroplane noise, which might not generalize perfectly to, say, traffic noise or neighbor noise.
Oh.
And the order they did the sensitivity tests was fixed. So this model is still evolving. It definitely needs more research to test it, refine it, expand upon it with different types of noise and situations.
Understood. But as a framework, it seems really promising. So thinking practically then, if you find yourself deeply impacted by noise, if this conversation resonates,
Yeah.
what can people actually do? What are the solutions for navigating a world that often seems to just get louder, both maybe on a big societal level and for individuals?
Yeah, that's the crucial question. Ideally, as the sources suggest, the best solution is to tackle the sources of noise themselves. Reduce noise at the source.
Makes sense. How?
Well, that means things like urban planning interventions, designing buildings with quiet inner courtyards maybe, using rubberized asphalt on roads to cut down traffic noise, building effective sound-diffracting walls along highways.
Right, structural changes.
Exactly. And some European cities are already doing things like reducing vehicle speed limits, really encouraging bike infrastructure, which is inherently quieter, creating designated quiet zones in parks. The point is, noise is recognized as a real health problem, but it's also potentially avoidable or at least reducible with smart policies.
Okay, so societal solutions are key, but progress on those big things can be really slow, right? So what about individuals? What can people do in their own lives to cope day to day?
Yeah, that's the reality for many. Individual strategies often involve avoidance, staying away from noisy areas if possible, soundproofing living spaces, which can be expensive and not always fully effective, and using personal protection like earplugs, earmuffs, or increasingly common noise-canceling headphones.
Right. Do those work well?
They can certainly help, but as we've learned, even these methods often just dampen sounds, they don't eliminate them. And for a truly noise-sensitive person, even quiet noises might be annoying. So they're often partial solutions.
So if physical barriers or avoidance aren't always enough, are there therapeutic approaches, ways to manage the internal reactions, maybe based on that new process model?
Yes, thankfully there are some avenues that can help. Sometimes if there's an underlying condition like anxiety that's exacerbating the sensitivity, treating that with medication might offer some relief. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, has also shown promise. CBT focuses on helping people manage their psychological reactions and behaviors towards noise, especially helpful for those who develop a fear of noise.
Right. Changing thought patterns and responses.
Exactly. And there are more creative approaches too. Music therapy with a qualified practitioner using specific types of soothing, soft music, think maybe Renaissance or Baroque chamber music, can sometimes help build more positive associations with sound, very carefully introduced.
Interesting. What if even music feels like too much sometimes?
That's a fair point. In those cases, art therapy might be beneficial. It offers a nonverbal, relaxing outlet for expressing the emotions and stress that noise can trigger.
Mm,
And honestly, sometimes just acknowledging the reality of the experience, validating that it's not just in your head, that it has biological roots, can be a really significant first step towards coping.
that's a powerful point, just feeling understood. I remember the author of that BBC article summed up her own journey, finding some measure of peace with a combination of earplugs, jazz-playing noise-canceling headphones, and sometimes even a towel wrapped around her head.
Yeah.
It really highlights that often quite desperate individual quest for calm in what feels like an increasingly noisy world.
It really does. And I think the larger takeaway here, connecting back to our mission, is that this deep dive really shows noise sensitivity is far more complex than just being easily annoyed.
Definitely.
It's this dynamic process influenced by this whole multitude of interacting factors, from the physics of the sound itself to our internal states, our attitudes, our biology, all processed through these unique neural pathways.
And understanding that complexity, I think, not only validates the experiences of millions of people, but it also points us toward potentially more effective research and hopefully better solutions for creating quieter, healthier environments for everyone. It's not just about turning down the volume, is it?
Not at all. It's about understanding that whole symphony, or maybe cacophony sometimes, of human sound interaction.
So maybe a final thought for our listeners to ponder.
What stands out to you most about this deep dive into noise sensitivity? And maybe thinking about that new process model, how might a deeper understanding of this complexity change how we as a society approach noise pollution, moving beyond just simple decibel levels?
Thanks for listening today. 4 recurring narratives underlie every episode: boundary dissolution, adaptive complexity, embodied knowledge, and quantum-like uncertainty. These aren't just philosophical musings, but frameworks for understanding our modern world. We hope you continue exploring our other podcasts, responding to the content, and checking out our related articles at helioxpodcast.substack.com.